Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. One of the hardest things to do is to pull together all of the smart home and home automation news because it is such a fast moving industry, and I don't want you spending hours doing that. I want to save you some time so you can go and spend that with your friends and family instead of searching for this stuff. So what I've done is I've pulled together all the latest smart home news for you to consume here in about 7 minutes. Our first news comes this week from Wyze, and they just released what I think is a major announcement, and I think it breathes a little bit of new life into Wi-Fi systems. The reason I say that is they've had their Wyze Cam 2 here for some time. They have the Wyze Cam Pan as well, and you know, this one is a $20 US device. This is a smart home camera for $20. It's amazing. Now, on the back of this device is a little USB port that we haven't really had any use for. But what they did this week is they released a new starter kit for basically a couple of sensors, and the two sensors you get is a contact sensor and a motion sensor, or a PIR sensor. On top of that, the starter kit includes something that plugs into the back of that USB port here, and what that does is create a little local network that is just between the Wyze Cam devices, and they utilize your Wyze Cam's camera connection for the automation connection to the rest of your network. Now, they're also releasing a bulb, but there's no details on that. The starter kit being $20 is again in line with the amazing pricing that Wyze has here. So what I'm telling you guys is this is a really smart design. They really thought through this, and from all of the video that they've shown me, this is going to be a big thing. Google has accidentally leaked details on a new 10-inch smart display that they're calling the Nest Hub Max. Now, it's supposed to have a 10-inch HD screen on it, stereo speakers, as well as a fully functioning Nest camera. We don't know yet the pricing here, but this showed up on Google's connected home page actually, and so it was a bit of a mistake. We have a few announcements from Amazon. They've now enabled Roku control through their voice assistant, as well as Song ID. And of course, Song ID means that you can get the announcement of what song is actually playing as you play through music, and this works on any of the connected music services. Now, if you're in the US, you can of course get Apple Music now. On top of this, Amazon has joined the Zigbee Alliance as one of the board members, and this is a big deal for a lot of people who have an Echo Show or an Echo Plus that already have the Zigbee hub on board. This means Amazon is really paying attention to what Zigbee is doing, and they're buying in further. Samsung recently published a 25.26 update of their version 2 and version 3 SmartThings hubs. Now, why would you care about that? Well, it's fixing a number of bugs, including, people who really struggle with getting that version 3 hub working with Wi-Fi connections. There are some more additional tools there for you to go ahead and utilize. On top of this, we actually see introduction of IKEA color bulbs and a couple of Fibaro devices that have now direct control capability through those Samsung V2 and V3 hubs. Finally, they also make mention of an update to Z-Wave capabilities, and this is really ominous. They don't really tell us a whole bunch about it, but what they're saying is they're getting it ready for future upgrades and capabilities and functionality from Z-Wave devices. Now, if I'm looking into my crystal ball, this is what I call ... Speaking of ... this is one of the methods or ways that you're going to be able to connect Thread devices in the future. And when we're talking about the Thread group, they've realized that some of their membership tiers aren't really working out here to gain more members. So they've introduced an implementer level or membership level that is much less expensive than some of the other levels there. So they're talking about now putting this out to some of those home automation implementation people or integrators to be able to go ahead and get membership, get access to more detailed information and more support. We saw Apple's big news conference, and unfortunately there wasn't a lot there in terms of automation. We saw their new video or movie subscription service and the new gaming service that's supposed to match up with Google's gaming service called Stadia there. And we saw a magazine service and a credit card, but really Apple has largely ignored the home automation industry here. They're doing some other things in the background, like having joined the Thread group very recently. Cortana has basically been declared dead here as far as I can tell. I mean, Microsoft, they're talking about experiences with Cortana, but they've removed it from Skype, or they will remove it from Skype on April 30th. They've sent out this announcement, and this means that you're going to have to move on to Amazon's voice assistant integration, which is capable right now in many countries. Sonos has launched a Gen 2 version of their Sonos One product, and this has me a little bit concerned for those of you who have a Sonos One already in the first generation version and are waiting for Google Assistant integration. There's been something clearly holding Sonos back here from getting this working, and I don't think it's really on the Google side. I think they needed what they've done with their Gen 2 version, which is to upgrade the memory and the processing capability. I think they just couldn't get Google Assistant and Amazon's voice assistant working on both of these. Now, they've also added low power Bluetooth to Sonos One's capability in this Gen 2 version. Signify has put out a firmware update for their outdoor sensor. There were some issues initially with people getting the information readbacks basically from that motion sensor. There were some struggles out there. So they've put out a new update. Go ahead into your Philips Hue application and get that outdoor sensor updated right away. They've also put out a training program for electricians for smart products, and this is interesting to see a little bit as we move some of these smart home products into more of an industrial setting. For my friends here in Canada who speak French, you know, the French-Canadian language has struggled a little bit in terms of getting support on some of these smart home devices, but there is a whole glut of devices that now have this capability. We saw Amazon actually finally drop French-Canadian capability here, and that's a big deal actually for lots of us in Canada, as well as Google has dropped more information. Sonos, Bose, there are a number of makers who are saying French Canada is all in. All right, guys, now hopefully this has saved you from having to look up all these features and some frustration in case you have something like a SmartThings hub and you're wondering why the hub is offline. Hopefully this has saved you time and energy, and I want you to go and utilize that time and energy with your friends and family.